On the backdrop of the Epstein File Release Bill sailing through both chambers of Congress, and with the bill transmitted to Trump's desk, he's released the following statement on Truth Social. Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged by the Trump Justice Department in 2019, not the Democrats, was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars to Democrat politicians, and was deeply associated with many well-known Democrat figures such as Bill Clinton, who traveled on his plane 26 times, Larry Summers, who just resigned from many boards including Harvard, sleazebag political activist Reid Hoffman, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who asked Epstein to donate to his campaign after Epstein was charged, Democrat Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, and many more. Perhaps the truth about these Democrats and their associations with Jeffrey Epstein will soon be revealed, because I have just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. As everyone knows, I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune to pass this bill in the House and Senate respectively. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of passage. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever speak about him. Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try and distract from our amazing victories, including the great and beautiful tax cut bill, strong borders, no men and women's sports or transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, lowering prices, biggest tax and regulation cuts in history, ending 8 wars, rebuilding our military, knocking out Iran's nuclear capability, getting trillions of dollars invested in the USA, creating the hottest country anywhere in the world, and even delivering a huge defeat to the Democrats on the recent shutdown disaster. For years, our great nation has had to endure Russia, Ukraine, impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, and many other Democrat-created witch hunts and scams, all of which have been so terrible and divisive for our country and have been done to confuse, deflect, and distract from the great job that Republicans and the Trump administration are doing. This latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats, just as all of the rest have. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Now, a few points to make here. First of all, if the Epstein files were actually that ruinous for Democrats, do you really think Donald Trump would have sat on this for 10 months? You think he would have put 1,000 FBI agents on a redaction mission? You think he would have had Mike Johnson adjourn the House early to prevent a vote? You think he would have frog-marched Lauren Boebert into the Situation Room, to get her to remove her name from the discharge petition? Trump's whole reason for being is to attack Democrats. If he was truly sitting on the gold mine that he claims he is, why would he have destroyed his own reputation to protect those people? Also, for the record, if there are Democrats in these files, great, expose them too. The difference between MAGA and the left is that we are not in a cult, and if anyone participated in Epstein's crimes, they do not deserve to be a member in good standing of the party, the movement, or society. Expose everyone, left, right, and center. Next, Trump says, I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune to pass this bill in the House and Senate respectively. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of passage. This one is truly rich. The only reason Trump finally deigned to allow Republicans to support this bill at the 11th hour was because it was already clear he was going to lose the vote. That's like becoming a Philadelphia Eagles fan 2 minutes before the Super Bowl game was over. I don't think he get credit for supporting the thing that is 100% happening with or without you. In fact, I'll remind you that not only did it happen regardless of Trump's participation, it happened in spite of Trump's participation. Again, just days ago, he summoned Lauren Boebert to the Situation Room to pressure her into removing her name from the discharge petition. Does that sound like the kind of guy who was offering his full-throated support for the bill? I mean, come on. I know Trump thinks that America is stupid, but he would have to think that we're clinically brain dead to believe what he's selling. Then Trump says, do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they even speak about him. So let's talk about why Joe Biden didn't release the Epstein files. 2 reasons. 1, Ghislaine Maxwell's prosecution was ongoing until her conviction in 2021, and then her appeal was ongoing until 2025. I know that we live in a world where the DOJ is completely weaponized, but a normal Justice Department wasn't going to release the files during an ongoing prosecution and risk undermining their own case. A case that was, by the way, successful, considering she is now in federal prison serving a 20-year sentence. Second, even if there was an opportunity to release anything, the decision didn't rest with Joe Biden or any other Democrat. It rested with one person, Merrick Garland, the most cautious, circumspect, wrong man for the moment Attorney General that we've ever had. Garland's principal focus was not seeking justice without fear or favor. It was avoiding the optics of politicization. So color me surprised that Merrick Garland's DOJ opted to avoid releasing any files in which Trump's name is quite obviously mentioned enough that Trump himself has now put a team of FBI agents onto making sure that his name is flagged and redacted. Frankly, if you ask me, Garland should have made sure to release those files at some point, but he didn't, and you can add that to the list of missed opportunities by a failure of an attorney general. And finally, Trump tries to claim that this is all a distraction from his many accomplishments. Let me pose this question. Do you think that maybe if you do the one simple thing that nearly the entire country, left and right, has been asking you for 10 months, that would be a more effective way to get them to stop talking about it so that everyone can move on to your big, beautiful accomplishments? Don't you think that maybe your cagey, weird unwillingness to release these files might be the literal reason why people are so focused on it, to the detriment of everything else? And beyond that, not that it's worth it to humor all of Trump's lies, but on the accomplishments front, let's consider what he promised on the campaign trail. That he would end the Russia-Ukraine war, didn't happen. That he would lower costs, didn't happen. That he would protect earned benefits, didn't happen. That he would make IVF free, didn't happen. That he would lower inflation, didn't happen. Honestly, maybe talking about the Epstein Files is a net positive for Trump because his actual accomplishments in office aren't exactly resume worthy. But look, all of Trump's obfuscations aside, let's get to the most important point. What happens next? The files are to be released no more than 30 days after this bill is signed, which is to say by December 19th, 2025. But will Trump release the full files is the real question. According to the Daily Beast, quote, "I fully expect that the Attorney General and Trump will use every possible excuse for not releasing the files," Senator Jeff Merkley, who introduced the bill in the Senate, told the Daily Beast. As written, the law not only allows the Attorney General to redact information that could help personally identify victims, but also information that would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution. And Pam Bondi has already signaled that she's not writing off the possibility of being able to point to an ongoing investigation.
The Epstein Files, does the new investigation by the Southern District of New York U.S. Attorney prevent the department from releasing all of the remaining files?
So we have released over 33,000 Epstein documents to the Hill, and we'll continue to follow the law and to have maximum transparency. Also, we will always encourage all victims to come forward.
When you say follow the law, Madam Attorney General, do you mean that you will provide all the files by 30 days?
We will follow the law. The law passed both chambers last evening. It has not yet been signed, but we will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
Which is a lot of words to avoid saying no, meaning Pam Bondi is very clearly going to reserve the right to be able to point to the excuse of an ongoing investigation as a way to avoid releasing all of the files. Although something tells me that I know which pages she's really focused on hanging on to. And by the way, so does Trump, which is why it was him who directed her to open an 11th hour probe into Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, and JP Morgan Chase. And it's why, less than 4 hours later, Bondi immediately listened to Donald Trump, acquiesced to his demand, and announced an investigation based on new information, as she mentioned here.
Madam Attorney General, the DOJ statement earlier this year saying that the files would not release mentioned the fact that the review of the documents and the evidence did not suggest that any additional investigation of third parties was warranted. What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. There's information new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
I wonder if her new information has anything to do with Trump's desperate edict that she immediately validated. Guess we'll never know. So look, nobody said that this would be easy, but even with Trump using every trick in the book, we've gotten this far. And given the fact that this is now a bipartisan effort to get these files released, it'll only get more and more difficult for Trump to continue his cover-up, especially since one lawmaker, a Republican, has a plan to make it as painful for Trump as possible.
So you are confident that these documents will ultimately come out, even if the president tries to fight this?
Yes, I'm confident. And that we sort of, we know when they're out because we know what some of these lists, who some of the men are. I don't have the names in my head right now. The ultimate thing that we could do is read the names on the floor of the House, and that could happen, but what needs to happen is the FBI needs to release these names.
Is that something you might do if he resists this, if the DOJ releases this? Could you go to the floor and read these names?
We absolutely would do that. Marjorie would do that. I would do that. There are Democrats who would do that. And but that's not the right path forward. That's the last effort if we hit all of the walls. But so far, we're making it through the walls and over the walls, and we're getting this done.
So Trump can try to stop the forward action, but as this movement gains traction, it's only proving more and more difficult for him to exercise any control. And it doesn't look like he'll regain that control anytime soon.